Welcome to Give a Heck. I am your host, Dwight Heck, and for much of my life, lived my life in quiet desperation, wondering how I was going to pay the bills, take vacations, save for retirement, and one day wondering if I would get off the hamster wheel of life and have purpose. A life that most of society lives, which takes us to work, then home, then repeat, and pays us hopefully enough just to survive. The harsh truth that most live with more month than money and have no idea how to live life on purpose, not by accident. This ensures the mass majority are living not just financially broke, however emotionally and mentally as well due to financial pressures. In each episode, I will introduce you to thoughts, ideas, and guests that can help you to learn how you too can live life on purpose, not by accident. Good day and welcome to Give a Heck. On today's show, I welcome Tim Branyan. Tim has been a leader in the tech industry since the early 2010. He began his career as an airman in the United States Air Force and realized that wasn't the path he wanted to continue on. In 2011, with no formal education and only slightly over $6,000, he launched his first app. Since then, he has launched hundreds of apps, developed hundreds of platforms, and directly supported other multi-million-dollar organizations. Tim has scaled to millions of users across his various platforms globally. He teaches others how to build towards their own freedom and wealth. Tim and his team proudly develop technology that customers recommend, entrepreneurs prefer, and partners are proud of. Tim's latest project, TrueFanz, just surpassed 203,000 plus global users. That platform empowers a wide variety of content creators to earn residual and predictable income from their creative work online without adult stigma. I'd like to welcome you to the show, Tim. Thanks so much for agreeing to come on and share with us some of your life journey.
Heck yeah, I'm glad to be here, Dwight. Thanks for having me, and I'm looking forward to having this conversation.
Yeah, so am I. It's exciting. Listeners or people watching, buckle up. We're going to have quite the ride over the next hour. Tim's got a plethora of knowledge and life experiences to share that can help you to give a heck and level up. So, Tim, one of the things I talked about before we hit the record button is that I focus on somebody's origin story. So it's not just about your background, this is what Tim did, went to the military. That's all information that we need. I want that as part of your origin, but I want right from your earliest recollections of little Tim, because I find that our earliest recollections and things that happen in our life do affect us throughout our whole life. And some people just don't think about it. And if you could share that, that would be fantastic. So, what key things from your childhood to adulthood to where you're currently at? I'd love if you could share that, please.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's actually the first time anybody's asked me that question. So it's forcing me to think about little Tim. And even as a little guy, I had two great parents that raised myself, and they had 4 kids. I've got 3 siblings. And I remember even when I was a kid, I just didn't quit. I don't know if I was just stubborn or if I was just tough. I don't know where it came. It was instilled. But, whether me and my dad were wrestling and he would throw me on the ground and we would wrestle around, I'd always get back up. And I loved the fight. I loved the competitiveness of it. I loved to just, enjoy that time there. And then as I grew up, I always, I had this desire to be first, whether we're walking on a family walk. I wanted to be in front, like leading the way and going, or else. And then I got into sports, and I always was very competitive there as well. I just enjoyed the challenge of, and then I also enjoyed just to be up front or winning. So for me, I grew up in a great home, and actually my dad's an entrepreneur as well. So I guess consciously and subconsciously, I got to watch somebody work a job and mind his freedom or mind his passion that he was doing on the side. So I think maybe that helped as well, like throughout all this information that I was gathering, going into adulthood. But, I didn't have, some rags to riches story per se. I grew up probably lower middle class with a great together family that was encouraging. And had an all in all a great childhood. I had a lot of fun.
That's awesome. So, one of the things you said, you grew up in lower middle class, but the thing that
Mhm.
I triggered on is the word encouraging. You were
Yeah.
always encouraged, right?
Yep.
And then you had a role model in the fact that your father was an entrepreneur. Um, my dad too. My dad, very, very successful entrepreneur, workaholic entrepreneur,
Hmm.
but he sent me the groundwork of the fact of how to treat people, how to be a relationship builder, how to
Hmm.
transaction should always be the afterthought of what you're doing. If you treat people well, you're always going to be taken care of. You know, but we always have, I have people that I've interviewed that don't have good parents, and I have people that I interview that are great parents. But in life, your parents aren't going to define where your ship's going to sail. They certainly can slow down the mindset of people. So by you having great parents, you talked about having a dad that you love to wrestle with. I like that.
Yeah.
You weren't gonna quit. It was like, I'm getting back up. Let's go.
Right.
All right.
Right. And I
Ah.
I was a tough kid, like, to raise. I was very rebellious. I had a mind of my own. I very much marched to the beat of my own drum. And now that I have kids, like, I realize how tough I was, just being that combative kid that had his own thoughts and ways that I thought things should go. And at that time, I really didn't do a great job of what I call, like, shutting up and coloring, like, just doing my
Shutting up and
knowing,
coloring.
yeah, knowing
I
my
like that.
position, like, shut up and color, like, this is your assigned role. I wasn't a good employee or team member at that time, like, of my family, truly. And I had a great mom and dad. I have great siblings. We had conversations, and me and my mom butted heads quite a bit. She had her way and she had mine. We're actually very similar. Come to find out later in life, that's probably why we butted heads. But my dad was the voice of reason. He was one of the first people in my life that could pull me aside and show me what was occurring at a different angle. He was the voice of reason. He was somebody that could say, hey, this is how it's going. And let me shine some light on this, son, and give you some direction and why it should be this way, or at least something for you to chew on and consider. So my dad is still to this day a mentor of mine, and somebody that's incredibly wise. He asked for wisdom from the creator. And I think that he's been given that. And even to this day, I need my dad in various situations where I want to see something in a different light. So that's been a blessing to have him. But growing up, I was a knucklehead, man, and that wanted to do things my way. And I hung out with other knuckleheads that were doing things their way. And I really wasn't going anywhere fast because I didn't have a plan. I more so was just living in the moment of life. Internally realizing that I, at least at the time, believing that I was of value and I could do things. I didn't have a limiting belief on what I could achieve, but I didn't have a plan on how I was going to get there, what it was going to be when I arrived. It was just all kind of waffling in life. Anyway, so that kind of evolved, right? If you want me to proceed.
Oh, absolutely. No,
Yeah.
I love it. I will interject though for a second.
Yeah.
Your dad was the voice of reason. He gave you a pivoting point to think differently. And I find that most entrepreneurs though as well, you also mentioned, your dad he was again the captain of his own ship, and you've seen that he was controlling his own time and destiny. Most people that have an entrepreneur heart are not good employees, because you talked about the fact you'd never make a good employee. Or I'm the same way. I could never work for anybody else. Once I had a taste of being an entrepreneur, and I was in a career when I decided that I wanted to be an entrepreneur like my dad. And I thought to
Mhm.
myself, I couldn't do it. I had self-limiting beliefs. A lot of us do, but I was lucky. It wasn't my dad net per se that pushed me to be an entrepreneur. I had somebody that I hired me, and he just kept on pushing me into being my own entrepreneur, to go back to school into electronics engineering, and to take that and develop my own business, and just different things that led me into where I am to now.
Yeah.
Our direction and focus can be there from our parents, but I still give you kudos because you had to decide to do that, and then also realizing that you butted your heads, you're too much like your mom. Yeah, and I'm like that with my dad. So at least you can reach out to your dad. My dad, if I reach out and got advice to him, even in his 80s, he can give me some good advice, but he also has the ability to push buttons.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I saw, so like my dad gave me an example that it was possible. Like he worked his job. I knew he went to work, and then he would go out on the weekend. My dad's a professional comedian.
Oh,
So,
okay.
not really a traditional career path, right? He would go out, and then I remember when he was like first starting, thinking back, and he would go out and do his show. And I didn't know what all that entailed. I never like went with him, because I think when he was first starting out, he was going to like comedy bars, and I was too young to have a beer.
Yeah, yeah.
But to watch him pack his stuff and leave work, come home, play with us, throw us around a bit, and then kiss us and, hey, I'll be back later, and realize, like, my mom would explain what dad was doing. It wasn't foreign to me. I don't think, like, maybe it might be to other folks, that the reality that you can start something, you can work a job and mind your freedom, or work a job and mind your passion, and things that are really, you're planning on really paying you, and not just monetarily, but in that wealth we were talking about, full circle life, building your life you don't need a vacation from. And yeah, so my dad was my first level of belief there for me. And then
He taught you that you could be present and still be your own person. You could be your own
yeah.
entrepreneur, because you said he came home and he'd play with you guys and kiss you and then off he'd go. But he
Mm-hmm.
always was present in your life. That's what I'm
Yeah.
hearing. And that's phenomenal.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I've always been a capitalist, or always been an entrepreneur. I remember, growing up lower middle class, like if I wanted it, I had to have money to buy it. So, my parents weren't just giving me money for shoes, or they weren't just giving us, any of the kids in the family. Like if we wanted a car, we had to earn it. I wanted a moped or a scooter, I had to earn it. So I was always thinking of ways to create income, and that forced me to think about the market. So as a young kid, high school was my market. Like these were the students, these were the people in my small little community, my city, and all the guys that I knew played video games, and they loved the Xbox. When I was growing up, Halo 2 was a video game that was like this really popular multiplayer game, and really kind of the Xbox became this big deal. My first hustle in high school was selling modded Xboxes that basically came pre-configured with emulators and games already pre-established on them, and you could search the
So
internet.
you were one of those guys.
Yeah, you could search the internet. You could search and browse the internet on a regular Xbox, which wasn't common. But the
No.
hustle was, it was $100. They would ride my bus, drop off their Xbox in my corner. I would have a 24-hour turnaround. And then once I gave them their Xbox back, they could then buy games from me, which was the residual component of now having an Xbox that can play modified games. So it was this, yeah, and I did really well. Microsoft, if you're listening, I'm sorry, no longer.
Don't come after me.
Yeah, but it was like,
I've reformed.
But thank you for allowing me the opportunity to build that muscle and learn as an entrepreneur, and create service. And
Yeah.
I learned about troubleshooting. I learned about customer support, and that was really like my first tech entrepreneurial hustle. But I was young, man. I wasn't even able to drive yet. I think I was like 14 or 15 years old, and
Wow.
yeah, put together my own little computer, got on the internet, and learned how to soft mod, and created a service that worked. Right, it turned a profit, and
that's exciting.
So yeah, I've always had like this desire to generate income, or to solve a problem. I've always been aggressively curious, and I think I get that from also my childhood, and being nourished to ask questions, being nourished to, or not like shunned or told don't ask. It's more so
so you weren't told that stupid phrase where children are better to be seen, not heard. You were allowed to be vocal.
Oh yeah. And I wouldn't have been able to help it, I don't think, even if we were told not to ask or told to pipe down. The way I'm wired, I want to know how things work, or why they're the way they are. and I cannot just accept it's because it is. It
Oh,
is what it
I
is,
can't
or it is.
stand when
I
people
can't.
say it
It's
is
like,
what
well,
it
wait a
is.
second. No, there's a reason, or I can't just be in a box.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's been good and bad at times for me. Sometimes it's unfortunate if you if you discover the reason why things are, and it's a little disheartening at
Well,
times. Or
it can be. But
yeah,
it's also but you know what though? So that has to be hardwired into your personality, because there's other people in similar circumstances to you, but they're docile. They'll just accept that life is what it is, and they become pattern people. They're just living a pattern of life, what their parents tell them they should do, or their school system tells them they should do. The universe says you should do this, go to work, go home, get paid. They get on that
yeah,
hamster wheel of life, and they get stuck in a rut, and they live a very uneventful life because they forget that life is a journey that needs to be experienced. Even
yeah,
myself, when I couldn't experience, as we talked about earlier, travel, I was raising kids of my own. I lived in the present moment with them. We'd go to the park, we'd
yep,
go on a trip, we'd go camping or whatever. Those are all memories. That's life journey. There's
yep,
so many people that, I hear, especially older people, 60, 70, oh, I wish I would have done this, and I wish I would have done that. Well, do
yeah,
it. Well, do it. Well, I can't do it. Yes, you can.
sure, yeah.
Right.
I tell folks that
Right.
I would, for the sake of innovation. I just actually wrote this on my LinkedIn. For the sake of innovation and prosperity, I wish that people were more afraid of regret than they were afraid of making the decision and taking the action, because you shouldn't die with the music. You shouldn't.
Oh, I love
Everybody's
that.
got something that they can give, and I think that I wish I knew the exact solution for the people that are living in their own apprehensions, or living in their own fear, or living in their own stagnicity, to be able to just give it to them. I wish I could send them an email and then
Oh,
boom,
me
they would flip
too.
the
Or
switch.
we go, we have something on television or a podcast or audio where it would be
Yeah,
subliminal processing, where it would just take away fear from
yeah.
them.
I
You
want
know,
them to experience that abundance that is the belief, and the realization that you're not stuck. You can make a choice today that this is what I want to achieve. Here's the action items in the plan. I can envision and I can see it. Like being able to turn that on to people would revolutionize their life, and we'd see a lot more. We'd see a lot more cool stuff,
oh,
I
and
think.
absolutely. I love when you said that. I felt the warm and fuzzies in here when you said music dying you, because I say that to people all the time for 20 years. And
Yeah,
especially since I started my brand a couple of years back in 2020, people say to me, why are you doing what you're doing? You don't need to. Yeah, I do. Why? Because I don't want the music to die in me. What do you mean by that? I have all this knowledge and all this wisdom. Again, listeners, people watching, wisdom is created by having mistakes in life, converting it to a
mm-hmm.
life lesson and learning from it and moving forward. So not everybody has wisdom. Contrary, just because you're an older person doesn't mean you have wisdom. You can have somebody, I've talked to people in their late 20s, early 30s that have more wisdom than people in their 40s and 50s and 60s, because they have been a person similar to you, Tim, that literally have learned through the process, and you continue to elevate and move up. And by the music not dying in me, that means that I don't want all that wisdom that I've come to die. I want to make sure that it helps even one person, maybe 10, maybe 100. Maybe I keep on going and I help thousands or millions. I'm not going to limit how many people it might help, but I don't want that to die inside of me. How many people are dying right now at this minute that had maybe the ability to have the cure for cancer, but they never ever applied themselves?
Right.
Right. That music's died. They've died. Their memories died. They're a blip. I was interviewed earlier today on a podcast. A guy that lives in the United Kingdom, and he wanted me on his podcast, and we talked a lot about legacy and what are you leaving behind, and realizing that legacy is living. So Tim, you're already creating your living legacy because people are watching you. I'm watching you now that we've become friends, and you're not going to be necessarily not polarizing, but you're going to be more thought provoking when you're putting your message out there, when you're helping other people, when you're coaching them, when you're, doing whatever. And that's making sure that the music doesn't die in you already. And
Yeah.
I'm proud of meeting you. That's awesome, brother.
Yeah, man. And it's funny you say that. So like, I'm building a personal brand. I'm putting stuff out there, right? I don't have anything to sell. I want to give away what I've learned, whether it's client acquisition, how to build software, how to create residual passive, and all these different things that I've like failed enthusiastically to learn, or I've opened up a book, or I've asked questions, or I've been unparalyzed enough to pursue, even just Googling. Like even that can be a step one, is just Googling it and researching, filtering what's good, taking away what's bad or not going to serve the pursuit. But like, I think about, I'm producing this digital content right now that's going to live on a server somewhere, live on a channel somewhere. And my son, my daughter, right, could potentially watch this. So as I'm creating this content, and as I'm sharing answers to questions and putting myself out there, there's a potential that my son might run into this later. And then I started thinking, like, everybody's somebody's son or daughter. And while I believe it's my responsibility to serve my son and my daughter, I also started thinking about, well, it's also my responsibility in some capacity, if I'm a Christian guy, to serve my creator. And I think by default, if I give this stuff away, I'm serving someone else's son. So typically, like the folks that resonate with me the most are around my age. And I don't know, that was just a profound thought to me, that I can impact someone else's son to hit their own objectives, or to here's this thing that's going to help you find your own wealth, find your own freedom number. Because everybody's different, right? So to be able to impact people by sharing what I've learned through failure, through reading, through consumption, that's very impactful and fulfilling to me. And I feel like I'm walking in my purpose. A lot of people ask, well, why? It's my responsibility. It's that simple. It's the response to my ability to give this away. And my hope is that I'm granted the opportunity, I'm granted the blessing to be able to serve more people and grow a bigger table. That's the only reason I want it. If it's just for me, I'm not inspired anymore. If it's just like, if I create a shit ton of money and it's just for me to have a huge mansion, it'd be a very lonely mansion, it'd be a very lonely story. And it wouldn't be me walking in alignment with my purpose.
I love that.
I'm thinking about, and I say that, and I hope that somebody can vibe with that or resonates with that for themselves. And the truth is everybody flips that switch as a man and walks within their responsibility, walks within their purpose. The world becomes a very prosperous place in general. It's a ripple effect.
Oh, absolutely.
Part of that is, we've seen what's happened over the last few years, dude. And it's been atrocious. I'm a military veteran, right? So I love freedom. I love freedom. And to see the diminishment of freedom and free speech and all this crazy stuff that occurred, rocked me. It shook me. It's uncomfortable. And to see all these people, afraid, right? And fearful. My only hope of all that, and I won't go down that road, my only hope of all that is that it demands and it creates this desire for leaders to come out and emerge from the chaos that took place and all the nonsense that took place, to come out and lead in their schools, lead in their communities, lead in their families, lead in their purpose, and walk in alignment. We need it. Again, me thinking about my kids, me thinking about my wife, me thinking about me building in this chapter that I've this allotted time that we have, and wanting to make the most of it.
Well, life's in session. This isn't a dress rehearsal, right? And you mentioned about the fact of I'm a Christian as well. God, like you hear that old story. Maybe you probably heard it, where the guys, there's a flood coming, and the person comes on a boat, person comes with a helicopter. They all try to save it. The guy dies and goes up to heaven and says, "Hey, God, why didn't you save me? What else did you want me to send you?" God doesn't directly influence or reflect on our lives. God influences humankind, mankind, whatever you want to call it, womankind, to be a vessel to go out and serve and help others. right? And people don't understand. Like, for those listening, if you're not, you're not Christian, you're not God-fearing, that's fine. You can be spiritual, you can talk to the universe. I don't care. What I am going to ask you to do is be kind, serve others, and you do that, it's always going to come full circle. You're going to get taken care of. The universe, God, whatever you want to believe in, is going to take care of you. And, you will have a better, as you put, alignment with your purpose when you serve others. If you're always trying to serve you, as Tim said, and you're trying to get lots and lots of money, what good is all that money? Right? like I told Tim earlier, I record a vlog. My listeners know that I record them. I have a lot of people that watch them every day. I did 1 minute one in the last few days that I don't want to be the richest guy in the cemetery. Right? And within minutes, there was 1,000 plays of it. It was just like literally because of the fact, the caption on it's going to shock people. What do you mean by that? Well, it was pretty simple. 1 minute, just talk about the fact I don't want to be the wealthiest. What good is having all that money and I'm dead in a cemetery?
Sure.
I want to impact people with their hearts, their mind, their body, their soul. I want to give all my information away. Obviously, I need money to survive and live a good life. And I want to leave money to my children. I want to leave not just an emotional and knowledge legacy, a financial legacy, but I better do the first two well, because I don't want to, I want to be the guy that goes up to, and we talked about Ed Mylett. Ed Mylett talks about it all the time. He goes up to the pearly gates. He doesn't want God saying, you know what? That's who little Eddie should have been. This is who little Eddie is. He wants to be as close to the reflection of what he was supposed to be. And that's that always sits with me when Ed talked about that. I've heard him talk about it in a room sitting right across from him. I've literally, that has impacted my life. I want to be the version of who God wants me to be, not what everybody in society thinks I should be. So I'm always striving to be the best version of myself every day. Till the day I die.
I love that, man. And people, you can call it the universe, you can call it whatever. The reality is the law is still in place. That in the reality is we can think, we can create. That is a godlike characteristic, in my opinion. The ability to think, plan, and create. It makes us very unique as beings on this planet.
Oh, absolutely.
And it is a godlike thing. So how you think matters to what you create. Everybody that's listening, if you look around the room, everything started as a manifestation of thought. Your table, your dad, I don't know if you're driving right now, your steering wheel, the car, the vehicle, the engine, all the components, the technology, all started from somebody's thought processes. So if it's true that thoughts create things, how you think about yourself, how you think about, what you believe about yourself and your capabilities and just, both conscious and subconscious thoughts matter indefinitely. And I believe that we're meant to prosper and we're meant to create our heaven on earth, and your words can create worlds. And when you forget that is when you start creating a bad world. You start creating it's actually that's when the negative things come into place: the fear, the anxiety, the depression, the stuckness. We'll call it that. I'll make up my own word, stuckness.
I like it though.
And it's like, when you flip the switch on that and you realize that you are made from the same substance that binds galaxies, and you don't have to believe like in a creator of the universe. I do, like without, like unapologetically, because it makes the most sense for me in the research that I've done in my pursuit. When you realize that you are a part of, you can create, that you're a divine being, what can really stop you? And then you realize it's yourself. And once you take ownership of that, and you realize that you're the guy that you're in competition with, and you're the guy that's talking you out of your blessings and getting in the way of your opportunities, and you can take some extreme ownership there, then you things will change for that individual. And that's all. That I'm just I am literally a result of that. We all have, I own a multi-million-dollar software company. I've hit higher highs than some, but there's definitely people way bigger than me, right?
Yeah.
And it's a constant.
But you're aspiring to be a better version of you. You're not trying to compete with that person that has more than you.
And
you're being the best Tim that can be.
What you said's awesome too. And I think it expands somebody's horizons when it's not just about money, but more so what the money can do as a tool for yourself, your family, other people. Imagine you have, you don't really need much more than 20 grand a month to live anywhere in the United States really well. You can
around the world. You can go to places in the world where you're literally a king or a queen on 20 grand a month.
That's a good amount of money. And everybody's freedom number is different. You're rich as a ratio between how much you make versus how much you spend. That's it. And you can set your life up accordingly to your freedom number. That's what I tell people.
And what bling and toys do you want?
Right.
Or do you really need? Right.
That's the big key. But I think that when you have these goals, or you have these envisioned ways that you're going to use money as a vessel to fund a charity, to help somebody else, or to build this profound thing that's what's going to invigorate you. That's what's going to get you excited to go out and produce. And it's going to help you start creating that architectural plan. I call it a vision plan. I don't like the word business plan. It's too dull.
No, it is. It's overused too. It's really
vision plan.
Yeah. I agree. That's good.
Anyway, that's my 2 cents on the whole thing. And I've had to learn this. I learned through, honestly, failing enthusiastically and believing that if it's meant to be, it's up to me. And I can do it. Other people are just people that have gotten out of their own way, that gave themselves, that's just my core thoughts. I don't feel like there's something magical about even Ed Milet or, Tony Robbins or all these people. They just think different, and they think different because they use different information.
But they're always putting new information in them.
Right. They're applying.
Even if you coach others and you work with others, I honestly believe I'm going to need coaching the rest of my life. And every time I think I've arrived, that's when I've already failed.
Yeah.
Right. I'd never want to arrive. And people say, well, you eventually have to have an end result. Well, yeah, on this thing. And now I'm on to the next thing. Or that's a piggyback effect. It's a leapfrog effect. I'm never going to arrive. Ed's never going to arrive. Anybody I know that's a true entrepreneur, and I'm not talking, and some of the billionaires on our planet, as a side note, might piss people off to hear this, make me sick. When you have that much wealth held by such a few people, and when you really look at what they do on a world basis to help mankind, or humankind, pardon me, they're despicable people. Despicable. Yeah. I'm sorry. When one world's billionaire can go out and end poverty and doesn't do it, shame on you. Shame on all of them, because
I'd be curious
if God was a creature that could cry, right, he'd be weeping right now.
I'd be curious to, I've actually never met, I don't think I've ever met a billionaire in person. Of course, I've seen them like on the internet. I've read people that have made books and stuff that are billionaires. So I've never met one in person.
Yeah, Ed's not quite there, and I've met Ed a few times. Right, I've had conversations. Yeah, Ed's worth about 400 million, 500 million US now. So someday, but even then, and I like Ed. Even he could do more, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just saying, not saying for himself. I'm saying I think anybody worth, 30, 40, 50, 100 million, like you bet, I'm not saying he does do a lot, because I've talked to him. He did, but even the wealthy faction of our world need to do more. Because you said, dial it back to the fact, if you only need 20 grand a month to live and you own a Ferrari, that's just materialism. I'm not saying people shouldn't own it.
Trophy.
I'm not saying they shouldn't own it. Own that trophy, right? I interviewed a guy a couple of days ago. He's worth millions, and he couldn't bring himself. His desire was to always, and that episode will be out in a few weeks. His desire was to have a Ferrari, but he could not bring himself to go and buy a Ferrari. Yeah. So he went and got a kit car Ferrari, because it was a third of the price, but yet he could afford to pay cash and buy the Ferrari. Yeah. He's like, I just couldn't bring myself to do it, Dwight. I looked at, oh my gosh, I wanted a Ferrari, so I got a kit car Ferrari for a third of the price, and I used that other money to go out and make a difference. And I forget what he all did with that money, right? But there's not enough of those type of people.
Yeah, right? It's a special. So that person, sometimes people arrive at where they're going just to realize that they haven't arrived. And that's a lot of the case, I think, when people hit
Awareness, right?
benchmarks, money, like benchmarks with money specifically. I was fortunate, man. I had a short stint in the Air Force. We talked about that, I think, before we even went live. But
Yeah, I have some questions about that because I have quite a few military friends in the U.S. and Canada and vets that listen to the show, and so there's some questions I'm going to ask you about that too. If we hopefully we get to it. If not, we're going to part two.
Well, if I had, I was in the military, and that changed my life. It brought me around people and opportunities that I otherwise wouldn't have if I stayed here. That was my first risk that I took, was leaving my nest.
So one of the questions I have around that is, you began your career as an airman, right? In the U.S. Air Force. What did those years teach you that still resonate with your life you built today?
Yeah. Integrity, service before self, excellence in everything that I do. Those are the core values. So integrity, service before self, excellence. And those are easy to say. And I thought they were corny when I was in, to be honest.
They're not.
General wrote them up. And now, I was 18 years old and I joined. I was like, it's kind of corny. But then as I stayed in, and as I realized all the different cogs, if you will, in the engine, and all the different nuances of what that general was probably thinking about, and what he could do to kind of layer them all. It's the very simple words that can have profound impacts on your life and in your business. When you have integrity, it's doing the right thing when no one else is watching. Way easier said than done. Way easier said than done. Service before self is simply service before yourself. You're thinking about your customer, you're thinking about your family, you're thinking about your fellow man. And then excellence in everything you do. Very easy to say, very challenging. Do you make your bed with excellence? Do you work out with excellence?
How many people don't even make their bed?
Right. Like,
you're already breaking a promise. Like, I promise myself and I do it because I don't like breaking promises to myself.
Yeah.
Right?
But that again is having a standard. So that's another thing the military gave me, was discipline, setting a standard for, how we conduct business, and how we, and in the military, it's high stakes, dude. I mean, if you don't do something, someone could potentially die or get hurt. And early on, when you're in boot camp, making your bed and not stepping in a certain area or carrying a tray a certain way, everything's measured, everything's calculated. There's a process, system, and methodology to everything. And you don't question it, you get in line with it. And when you're in line with it, you start to realize, you become indoctrinated into these processes and why they're the way they are. And you start to see a macro view of the whole Air Force or the military in your position that you get assigned in boot camp. You don't realize that until you're probably a few weeks in, maybe, or if you're slow like me, like 9th week, you realize, oh shit, this is cool. So like when you are doing, so the stakes are really high, but I would not change anything about my time in the military, who I was around, what I learned, and it's definitely been profound for my business and how I treat people. It was actually an opportunity for me, because I deployed every 6 months, like every 6 to 8 months, I volunteered to go overseas. I've been to Iraq, flew over Afghanistan, been to Qatar, been to Kuwait, been to all these places, and I got a chance to work with people from all walks of life. The military is this conglomeration of people in the United States Air Force or military, but then, you talk about foreign nationals, and I worked with people from Uganda. I worked with people from different parts of Africa, India, Malaysia, all over the planet. And even the Canadian Army. Look at that. We've had experience with you awesome guys. And so that, and I think the number one thing that the military did for me was aggravated this deep desire to serve, and this deep desire to play a position in the mission that and attain success. This early on, this unedited version of like what I thought success was going to be. And
that's a lot. But you know what? That's awesome. It taught you structure. It taught you, give you a purpose. But I hear that from a lot of my friends that served and I have more military friends from the US than I do in Canada, just because of just networking and circumstances. And the military taught you so much that you've taken into your current life. But I know there's people like you look like a David Goggins, and look how long he's and all he's accomplished, or
Yeah.
so many other people in the military. Can you tell me what was the deciding factor that made you realize it was time to leave the Air Force and move on?
Yeah. So I saw the end road. I looked around and I saw the rank advancements, and the time and grade would get me to about here. And then I looked at those men and women in those roles, and I thought, I don't know if this is for me. I started to think about different ways that I could continue to grow or where I could work. Initially, I was signing up for 4 years. Love it or hate it, I was going to build my resume, and that was going to help me, get a job. And still trying to find kind of my way. I didn't realize all the characteristics I was going to get. I didn't realize, the things that I was going to extract external of like money and external of, some of the skills and such that I would learn. But so the pivoting point for me was just being able to see where I was going to be and realizing that I was just a ranked employee, and I wanted something different. I wanted to, part of it was I was really comfortable in the military, but part of it was I can continue to excel. And although this is a great retirement, I could do it more part-time and then go on a little bit of an adventure here. So I went to school. That was going to be this new forefront adventure. And I was super burnt out. Felt like cattle. I went to school and I was surrounded by people who had no fucking clue why they were there, or no idea like what they were
They're
doing.
just a digit.
It was
They're
just the next step.
They're a digit in life.
They were just waffling through. So the system had put them there, and they're paying for it. Fortunately, I got to go for free because I had served. So I was on the GI Bill, and I was miserable. I did well. I did what I was, I grinded through it. I shut up and colored. We talked about that earlier. Shut up and colored. And I got to this. I was during this time. So this was my first like real restlessness and discontent moment, where I'm almost borderline depressed because I'm going to school. It's not what I thought it was going to be. I'm fucking miserable because I'm looking around and people weren't even paying attention in class. Like, these were not sharp people. I went to a small general school. I wasn't going to Harvard. So these kids they're kids first off, and I don't feel like we have anything in common. And I'm sitting here like, what is going on? What am I doing here? Like, this isn't going to help me. Like, this isn't the right place to be. And I knew that, and I felt that. So I did something about it, which is, I think, the first place that a lot of people go wrong is they don't get out of that uncomfortability. They stay stuck. I was like, screw this, I'm dipping out. What can I do? Okay. And I put the thinking cap on, and I had heard that contracting overseas, you could make a large amount of money. And I didn't have a wife and kids at the time, and I could do the same thing that I'm already qualified to do in the military, but as a civilian. So I'd heard that it's just a really good thing. So I started sending my application out everywhere and started calling people, talking to people. Hey, do we have any? It's kind of like a who you know sort of deal to get in. And after failing and seeking, I get an opportunity, and I get a call. So I'm on the next plane. I sell all my stuff and put most of the rest in storage. And I moved to Kuwait. I lived in Kuwait for about 3.5 years. And this is, I'll kind of lead up to my second discontent. I was in Kuwait making more money than I've ever made in my entire life, working a job. And I did that for 3.5 years. I got to travel the world, made some awesome friends, but it was no way to live a life. After that 3 years of Groundhog's Day and really grinding to hit this money number, which I didn't really need in the first place. I didn't really know why I was acquiring so much money. I didn't have a plan. I was so burnt out, and I remember going into work and just being like, here I am again. Here I am again. I'm just trading my time for money. I was looking at my family like back home during holidays, like getting together. I was watching life happen, like external, from like this kind of like elevated view, and thinking, in the first time in my life, I really started auditing, what is wealth for me? What do I want? What is important? And those questions ultimately got me to thinking about freedom and how could I attain it? And the only thing that made sense in my head, it wasn't working more hours. It wasn't getting another job. It wasn't, staying there and working for 10, 20 years and then using that lump sum as now that I'm an older guy, this is hypothetical, to then go live a life. It's like, fuck that. What's the best way? Entrepreneurship made sense. But then it got me to think, okay, well, what is the business that can pay me even half of what I'm earning right now, but I can own my time. I can not lose all my hair and lose all my energy in the process of building this. And so I racked my brain on everything, dude, from a hot dog stand to a franchise to a bike rental shop. Like literally I wrote out everything and tried to figure out what could pay me in all those things that I just mentioned.
But still have time freedom though.
Yeah, like it could pay me in all these things that were important to me: time freedom, money, residual passive income, something I could pass down, something that I could set the rules on and own my life. Well, still, I didn't need to be a billionaire at that time. I just needed to make enough to call my own shots and not have to clock in 140-degree weather every day.
Yeah.
So tech became this thing that made sense. So with literally no formal education, just belief on fire, I said, I can do this. I don't know how to code. I don't know how to engineer. I don't have a degree in this, but I know enough that I can research. I know that YouTube's available. I know that this guy's doing it. I saw an ad for a guy that was selling a software that I admired and just instantly had belief in that something like this could work. And I believe that software could be global. I believe that there's a lot of different pain points that can be solved by technology. And I knew that I could sell. I knew that I could create distribution, like through sales guys I knew or different video mechanisms. Like that made sense. I could grasp that part. I just had no idea how I was going to build the software. I had no clue how I was going to bring this thing to life. So with ignorance on fire, I went out and, like I think most people probably do, I got on Fiverr. I got on Upwork. I put out a LinkedIn post. I started asking my friends, hey, do you know any engineers and developers? And long story short, through that process of failing, literally for more than what most people invest in their business to start with, failed for hundreds of thousands of dollars. I've found an awesome team that has since become an integral part of bringing software to life. And and that's been a hell of a journey, man. Like learning, I didn't go to university, but I definitely went to the university of trial
Hard
and error.
knocks, of life. Yeah.
And I'm glad I did, because now I understand real world application and like real world systems and processes that work to get code shipped and to help a client or help a customer bring something to life that will solve problems for their organization or existing systems or their own clients, whether it's then or in the future. So yeah, that's how
you got to TrueFanz. So all this knowledge and all these teams of people you put together, mm-hmm. and you created TrueFanz, because I want to make sure we talk about that. What does TrueFanz fix for people? What does it bring to the market when you got to that point of creating TrueFanz, and now you're 200 and some thousand? You got all these people that are utilizing this service. Why was TrueFanz the thing that you ended up evolving into?
Yeah. So the first platform that we built, that was 8.5 years ago. So I've been in the space a long time now.
Yeah.
And that platform since has been sold, which is an awesome experience, learning experience. But TrueFanz started with just identifying what sucked in the market. And that's where I always typically find great solutions or tools, is by identifying what sucks, whether it's a stakeholder or somebody that's bringing that information to us as a team to build, or if it's me having an idea on how we could solve something. So for TrueFanz specifically, content creators are being deplatformed. Content creators have been historically underpaid and undervalued. Content creators are being suppressed and limited on their community outreach, and their algorithms are literally only giving people 1% to 3% maybe
if
to
you're
reach
lucky.
the audience. Yeah, to reach the audience that they've brought to this platform. It's no secret anymore that your data is being sold. It's being used external of most people's knowledge. Some people are keen to it now. And the reality is in that situation, anything that's free, you're the product most of the time.
Absolutely.
So that all those things suck, and they're happening right now. Like dialogue is being deleted from most media platforms if it doesn't meet the mold. I think that sucks. So all these things that were happening, we thought, well, we can change this. We can flip the script. We can reconfigure the paradigm of traditional social media, and we can put content creators first, and we can give them 9 different ways to monetize their audience and their reach. We can give them an invite-only platform where it's not like a Walmart where everybody can join and there's no real verification that somebody is who they say they are. It's more like a country club where you have to be invited or you have to apply, and you're either granted access or you're not. We gave them more features and functionality than some of our competitors because we knew we needed to stand out. We couldn't just be another platform. We had to either be, we weren't going to be as good. We needed to become the logical choice. So the next thing that we did, probably the biggest thing outside of like adding new features and functionality, paying more, paying faster, we launched instant payments. The biggest thing is we don't allow adult content. So we're a wholesome alternative to, Patreon, OnlyFans, for people that are creators that want to monetize and create a fan site, but don't want to be associated with the adult stigma. So we became this place that is allowing that and creating that rally point. And we're proud of that, man. We're excited about where we're going. We've grown globally. We've got an awesome creator base, and we're excited about where this is going to go. We've ran 0 ads right now too. We've not run a single ad, and we're excited to kick those off soon. And it will highlight some of those things that I just mentioned, and it will broadcast us out to this group of people that we believe would love to take advantage of what we built.
So where do you see, because you mentioned the algorithms, and it frustrates the crap out of me how those algorithms control absolutely everything. You can post something that you don't even think's that bad, and all of a sudden you're put in jail, right? Yeah. Instagram, Facebook, jail, whatever. Where do you see yourself? Because you're really your fingers in the heartbeat and pulse of the industry when it comes to that. Where do you see it, social media, heading in the next 3 to 5 years?
It's a great question. So I believe that you as an individual will own your own piece of social media. So just like some people right now have their own personal website, I think it will only increase as the barrier to entry and the complexities reduce. Like right now, like think back 5 years from now, 10 years from now, how challenging was it for somebody to build a website?
Oh my gosh. And the crap that was out there.
Right. So like the website development has become exceptionally more simplistic. Anybody can go to wix.com. Anybody can go to, and get a base level website. Of course, if you want additional functionality or be able to do cooler things, you're going to have to know how to code or have a coder. But so I think the same thing will happen for the future of social media, is that you as a creator, as a maker, you will have your own infrastructure. And our hope as a company is we become the back end empowering that to, we become the geek squad, if you will, the people that are handling the nuances like content compression algorithms, some of the security compliance, some of the ticketing and things that are necessary more as a support role versus monetizing.
So you'll integrate into the website, or will the website be hosted through?
I imagine
I'm kind of sorry. I just want clarification.
No, it's a great question. So I imagine that the individual will own their domain. The individual will own their data. The individual will own their merchant processor. The individual will own everything, right? And we will become more of a support element in that.
Oh, okay.
Like as far as like us being the tech arm, we are more so the behind the scenes that have connected those integrations.
Okay.
And then we earn an ongoing for that, being the geek squad, if you will, to somebody's, we're the residual and the logistics behind. Yeah. So that's kind of where I imagine things will go, but simplifying the process to somebody creating that front end is the important piece of that idea that I just shared.
That's amazing. People listening or watching, social media is not going anywhere, but I look at Mighty Networks. I look at all these different companies that have come up trying to combat against the control of these companies and controlling what we can say and what we can't say. Obviously, we got to be careful. You don't want to be inciting hate and harm, but
Sure.
people, one of our freedoms that we have in North America is the ability to have free speech.
Yeah.
As long as you're not being morally and, legally apprehensible, we should be able to say stuff. And Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn, all of them control. And like you said, 1 to 3%. And that's if you're posting regularly. And that's if you have like a lot of outreach with connections and followers, and you don't know one moment if it's because they didn't like it or you don't get comment, and everybody tries to guess what the algorithms are. How about we just have something that doesn't have an algorithm that we can, except for making sure that you're not telling people to go kill themselves, right? Or stuff like that.
The issue is that it's not that they have a pay to play model.
Absolutely.
If you want to get your reach, you have to pay for your reach. And that's because advertisements are paying their electric bill. Advertisements are what, Facebook and these other first starting platforms were built on. It wasn't centered around the creator. It was, how do we monetize this thing that we built? So we've got this thing, we've got all these expenses, we've got all these people. Well, who wants to talk to these people? Well, businesses do. Well, we can broadcast these businesses in ad space. And that's great in my opinion, if the user
gets
is
paid.
Not only, is participating in that revenue, simultaneously, if that person, the creator, the user of the platform, turns that on, if they decide, yes, I would like to monetize my page, and yes, I would like this individual be able to advertise to my people. I just think that there's like, that has to change as well.
Absolutely.
And we're gonna see a whole new world of technology now that like Web3 is happening and crypto technology. It's wild, wild west. I'm not gonna get into like my beliefs or thoughts on the crypto world right now. It's too crazy.
Well, and as a finance dude, I have my opinions, but I won't share them in this podcast. We can have a conversation about that outside of this. It's batshit crazy. And on one front, it should be controlled. On other fronts, it shouldn't be. It's, I'm just going to sit back and watch it unfold and let those that can become billionaires or millionaires overnight with it and lose it just as quick.
Yeah.
Right. And I will continue to think and create and have a business that I know is controllable by myself and those I associate with, that I know is, literally I can look at a business, an entrepreneur, and we control. We are the captain. We might have some co-pilots. We might have some support networks. We might have a Tim supporting Dwight or a Dwight supporting Tim because we care about one another, but we control what the message is. We control what's going on. And so
I'm all about utility. There will be companies that emerge that have real world utility that are solving problems. And I believe that you're paid in direct proportion to your ability to solve problems.
Thank you. That's
true.
And
cryptography is a wonderful thing. The technology is not new. It's just now being like discovered. But cryptography and like crypto in general, blockchain, isn't this like brand new thing? It's evolving now that it's been spotlighted.
You're right.
But Bitcoin's like 10 years old or even older than that now. It's just now being like looked at.
I think it's about 13 or something.
Yeah,
like
with like utility. And
but it's no different than the stock market. Somebody's going to always be at the top of the freaking heap. There's always going to be just the billionaires. And there's always going to be people that are in that 91% that I talked about. Like 91 people out of 100, they're toast.
From my, I've got a background in national, security and security policies. And I was in the Department of Defense as a professional in that security world for a long time. And I don't believe in long-term DeFi due to national security issues and due to all these things that if it was unregulated completely, that's a recipe for disaster, potentially.
100%.
Like a lot of recipe for chaos. So I do believe in some level of
compliance.
Yeah, compliance and regulate. It has to. However,
within reason,
that's just one market that crypto falls into. There's logistics. There's internet service providing. There is all these different areas that will be changed by the technology. So my only recommendation on that, and I'm not a financial advisor, would be to look at the teams, look at the companies that are don't just have a really cool white paper about what they're saying they're going to solve, but look at what they're actually solving, how many people are using it, getting the result, and excited about that result they're obtaining. Like those are the teams and the companies that I would look to invest in or support or get involved in, because I think they'll be here through the wild, wild west rodeo.
Well, you look for the tangibles, look for the people
show.
that are, exactly. Look for the tangibles, look for the people that are actually, that can be a back end partial, the crypto or blockchain and all that stuff. I get that. But it's the people, it's the world changes that are bringing a service or a physical product to the table that are going to change the world. That may be a solution for payment, because I know people are taking payments already with crypto and stuff, and that's fine. Go for it. To me, that wild west, I'm not ready to tell my clients or anybody to jump onto that. I'm not telling them they can't look at it, but be cautious. It's like anything else. Why is there so much compliance in the stock market? Right. There is, and really there isn't the right compliance, if you're honest, but you know what I mean? Otherwise you wouldn't have calls and you wouldn't have puts, and you wouldn't have billionaires that can buy both positions and make gazillions. And statistically do you know, over the last 50 years, the stock market has only made 2 to 3% of people money. The rest all lose. Yeah. Because they don't have enough to play the money game. They don't know the rules of the money game. The billionaires may not know it, but they know who to hire that knows it, and they continue to make money. And again, I'm not against people making money. I'm against the fact that the middle class and the poor are always the ones that are at the expense of all that, right? Not enough people actually making a difference and solutions and products that can change and make everybody have that 20,000 a month.
Yeah, what a wonder, empathy at the highest levels of CEO or highest levels of founder, highest level of president. That person is who has my vote. That person who has my thumbs up is the person that actually gives a shit.
They don't have empathy though.
Right. Oh, I think that, I don't know where it goes or if it was ever had, for some of those folks, and I can't I don't want to, but to have that as someone who has attained a high level of success or a high level of income, to be able to then be a good steward of it, in my opinion, is the definition of like wealth. If you've maintained being that dude, like a good, and you
stewarded success of others,
and you're still giving back, and you're still like, through all the various complexities that have to occur in order for you to get to that, all the spreadsheets you've looked at, all the finance things, all the personnel you have in place to grow to that 100 million, 500 million, whatever you end up at, to remain that person that is filled with empathy and gratitude and that's
and
that,
serving,
in my opinion,
serving others.
You're actually successful in that place. That's when I'll give somebody credit for me being who I am. It's just like, whatever, maybe they're not looking for that, but I hope that they find peace, and I hope that they find their that's genuine. I really do hope that some of the people that I've met, people that are wildly successful, but it seems like they're missing something too. It seems like they're unfulfilled. So those people, I think auditing themselves at that new high that they're at, it may be time for them to change too. It may be time for them to get a coach, or maybe time for them to
change coaches.
Right. What's wealth mean to me? What is wealth? And the truth is, I think it's walking in alignment with your purpose, and then discovering, what is my purpose? What is my responsibility? It's not just acquiring huge amounts of money.
Absolutely.
In my opinion.
I agree. 100%. 100%. One of the things I wanted to is, we're going a little bit past what I normally go past, but that's okay, because I got a couple more things and I ask you, and we'll wrap up. So what is one core piece of advice you could give other aspiring entrepreneurs on their darkest days of building their purpose?
Man, it's so easy to say. It's really going to be hard to do when you're in that dark lull, or you're in that really dark place where the world's crashing around you. But fucking love it. Embrace it. when you're there, if you can remember this or replay this or copy this clip, I don't know, enjoy it, because for this reason, flip the switch and realize that number one, you have the ability and capability to feel the pain, you have the discernment. Your brain works enough where you can realize that you're in a bad place. Some people don't have that gift. Some people don't have that ability. Some people haven't been given a mind or the ability to discern what's, that feeling. So number one, that's the first thing you can be grateful for, is that you can discern that, and you've realized that you're in this tough place. Fuck, this sucks. Remember where you're at. Remember, like, realize how you got there, and now get very tactical on how you're going to get out, and be excited about the story that's going to come from that. Like, be excited about that. This is a part of your journey. Your story is still linear. You're on this, you're alive. You're still moving forward. And this is a chapter that's going to either refine you or define you. And my urge to that person would be to always be in a refinement mode versus a cowering, defining moment. Never, I don't think you should ever have a defining moment. You should have refining moments. And when you do that, you're always a student, like we talked about. You're always refining yourself to be the person who you should be. I don't think it's this hidden thing. I think most people know. That's what causes the disruption. When you're feeling down, you're feeling disrupted, is because you should be doing something different, and that you belong in a different spot in a different place. So, that's my thought on it.
That's amazing advice. Like, I agree with what you said. Rewind this snippet, really listen to the whole episode again, and take notes, because if you actually, those watching and anybody that's familiar with my show, I've taken a ton of notes, and I'll actually review these before I even send it up to the publication company. There were so many nuggets of information. I'm not even going to bother reviewing it. Go listen to it again. We're going to go on to the last thing. Tim, if you had to give our listeners one last closing message, what would you tell them in regards to giving a heck and never giving up?
Should give a heck. You should love yourself enough to give a heck. You should love yourself and your future self and your future selves, kids, grandkids, offspring, generations to come, to give a heck every day. To mind if you're working a job, mind your job, mind your freedom at the same time. Work your job, mind your freedom. Design a plan, and give a heck enough to believe in yourself and your ability to be, the person that you've designed. And ultimately, you say this too: live a life you don't need a vacation from. It starts with a plan, and then belief in that plan, giving yourself permission to get out of your own way.
Oh, that's amazing. Again, hit the rewind button. This is amazing. I can't wait to have this go live. There's going to be so many people that are going to resonate with your journey, your stick-to-itiveness, your tenacity. You're the full meal deal, brother. I appreciate you being on the show. So our time is almost up, and I want to respect our listeners and your time. However, before we end, can you please tell the listeners what's the best way to reach Tim?
Yeah. So you can go to timbranyan.com. There's a multitude of different ways to reach me there. All my social media links are there. You can click on those and connect with me on social if you'd like, or reach out. And then another simple way is Google as well. I think if you Google Tim Branyan, Branyan, you can find me, or do a Siri search, voice, if you're tech savvy. Yeah. And then the TrueFanz stuff, if you're a creator, if you're somebody that has a community, if you're somebody that's interested in learning more about monetization, like how you can, earn impact, whether you're a philanthropist, a musician, maybe a fellow podcaster, or whatever. We are 100% invite only. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and give Dwight access, and then just hit up Dwight. Like he'll put his link, or you can contact him, and then he'll be the gatekeeper. And we do that so we can help synergistically. I know I didn't tell you about that before we started, Dwight, but
that's okay. Sure.
Anybody that reaches out, I'm going to say, hey, get with you.
I'm more to game to help, man. I love connecting people, as you noticed when we first started discussing. I like connecting.
Yeah. and it creates profitability like for all sides, right? So if it's a win-win-win, I'm always about it. So those opportunities come about. But yeah, just hit up Dwight if you're interested in learning more. You can go to TrueFanz with a Z.com to read more and learn more. But the best way to gain access is just hit up Dwight. So that'll be the fastest way.
And I'll make sure that all goes into the show notes, which you can access at a non-algorithm driven site, which is my website. Go to giveaheck.com and you can click on the podcast portal. There's portal buttons there, and you'll be able to go in and see Tim's smiling face, and you'll be able to read the show notes. We'll have all the links in there, and check out TrueFanz and, see what it's about. And if you're interested, like Tim said, reach out to me and we will, we'll go further from there. Thanks again for being on, brother. This has been fantastic.
Had a blast, man. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So thanks so much for being on Give a Heck, Tim. I appreciate your time and sharing some of your experiences so that others too can learn it is never too late to give a heck. Thank you for taking time out of your day and listening to Give a Heck. If you find value, I'd appreciate you sharing with your friends and family so they too can learn how to live life on purpose, not by accident. So you do not miss the next episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and please also post a review. I look forward to reading your comments. This has been Dwight Heck. If you want to check out other podcast episodes or today's show notes, please check out my website, giveaheck.com. And until next time, together let us all strive to give a heck.